Travis Wesley was experiencing a particularly challenging day. His wife of 23 years had recently informed him of her intention to date other men, effective immediately. Travis sat silently at the kitchen table, his hand grasping a glass of monkey shoulder scotch. He had not consumed the amber liquid for over 10 minutes. He stared straight ahead, unable to see or hear, yet acutely aware of the internal anguish. Travis was aware that the consumption of Alka-Seltzer would not provide sufficient relief. He had heard stories of other men's wives telling them they were going to date other men, but he had always assumed it was nothing more than an urban legend. He was perplexed by the notion that a woman could assume that her husband would allow her to date other men. He was aware of the meaning of the term cuckold, yet he was unable to fathom that a woman could be so indifferent to her husband and so self-centered in her aspirations. That is, until 45 minutes ago. It was Monday, and it had been a productive day at the firm where Travis worked. He had even left the office a few minutes after 5 o'clock. The time is 0 p.m. Whistling a cheerful tune, he entered the house and was still feeling rather optimistic when he found his wife sitting at the kitchen table, sipping a glass of red wine with a glass and bottle of his favorite whiskey in front of his usual place. He dropped his briefcase and poured himself 3 fingers of the liquid, then sat down in a chair. "What's the mystery?" Lauren Travis asked, noticing the crooked half-smile on his wife's face. His wife looked him straight in the eye and smirked. He observed a certain unease in her eyes. He shifted in his seat, displaying nervous behavior. "Do you believe I have been an exemplary wife and mother throughout the years?" she inquired in a composed manner. Travis furrowed his brow. His wife was aware that he was a reserved and contemplative individual, and she could discern the intricate processes occurring within his mind before he responded. "I believe so," he replied, his tone reflecting a certain degree of contemplation. "And what about this?" she asked, maintaining her impassive expression. A few moments elapsed while Travis considered the question. He contemplated the question once more. Should he be rewarded for fulfilling the duties of a good husband and father? What, then, is the appropriate reward for fulfilling the duties of a good wife and mother? Lauren Travis asked irritably, "Travis, I want to go on a date with another man tonight." He experienced difficulty in responding. Lauren regarded her husband as if he were a child and nodded slowly in agreement. "I have not been on a date with another man since we became exclusive 24 years ago," she said. "I have been a good wife and mother to our children. I deserve a night with another man. I want a chance to try someone new. I want someone for pleasure, not someone to love. I am 47 and I cannot stay beautiful forever. I want to try more men, while I'm still a desirable woman and can get them with a snap of my fingers." Travis's lower jaw slowly dropped. He was aware that he had succeeded in persuading his wife to reconsider her position, but he was nevertheless taken aback by the seriousness of her intention to act upon her words. He did not even have to ask the question. Lauren nodded at him as if reading his mind. He was visibly disconcerted by her resolve. Once downstairs, Lauren looked stunning in a little black dress that practically encased her physically attractive body. Featured a cutout in the front of her size 3 breasts, with no bra, and a length that barely reached mid-thigh. Her makeup was minimal, as a beautiful woman does not require much. Her long blonde hair was pulled back into a high ponytail, creating a striking visual effect. Lauren observed that at that moment, her husband was wholly hers. Travis then stood from the table and stated, "I am uncertain as to your intentions. You're not going to ruin this evening for me, Trav. You can talk tough, but you know you won't divorce me because of it. Where are you going to find a woman like me if you let me walk out on you? You know it, and the kids are going to be mad at you for ruining our family. Face it. Let me have a few years of fun, and then it'll just be you and me again. We'll grow." The couple had been together for a considerable period of time. Travis was aware that he loved Lauren and did not want to be alone for the rest of his life, given that he had the option of pursuing other romantic interests. A car horn sounded, prompting Lauren to grab a small bag and walk over to Travis. She attempted to kiss him goodbye, but he flinched as if from a mild shock and pulled away. Lauren appeared surprised and hurt for a moment, but her expression quickly changed to anger. She informed him that she would be returning home, but did not specify when. As she walked away, he watched in horror. He was 23 years old. It appeared that the marriage was truly over. Lauren did not even look back at him as she walked out the door. It is a sad but undeniable fact that people who are good, those who are more physically attractive, tend to have an advantage in life over their less attractive peers. They are more likely to make friends and receive attention from others. Teachers are more inclined to give them better grades. In Lauren's case, this was evidenced by her ability to receive better grades as she grew older. Her breasts were fully developed by the age of 13, which further enhanced her physical attractiveness. She quickly learned that if she made eye contact and smiled at a boy, he would be more likely to approach her. For those boys who played the underdog, she would offer a gesture of solidarity. She would stick out her breasts a little. This gesture was effective, as evidenced by the fact that virtually every boy she came in contact with was immediately amenable to her advances. Travis was no exception. He had fallen under Lauren's spell almost from the first time they met. His family had moved to town the summer just before he went into 8th grade. On his first day of school, he met Lauren and was quickly. Travis was a talented athlete and well liked by his female classmates. He mustered the courage to ask Lauren out on a date, which she accepted. They became a couple and remained so until the first few weeks of their freshman year of high school. At that time, Lauren ended the relationship to pursue a romantic interest in Landon Estes Jr., who was a Travis, the starting player on the school's soccer team, was 5 feet 3 inches and 50 pounds at the time, while Estes was 5 feet 8 inches and 86 pounds. Despite his disappointment, Travis accepted the situation and came to terms with the reality that Lauren was not his ideal match in terms of physical appearance. Moreover, the majority of the boys at school were also not on Lauren's level in terms of physical attractiveness, given her association with a soccer player. Consequently, Lauren gravitated towards the popular crowd. Travis was one of the unassuming individuals traversing the school's hallways. He maintained a select group of female acquaintances and did not interact with Lauren SS frequently during his high school years. On the occasions when they encountered each other, she exhibited a lack of recognition, prompting Travis to initially react with frustration. However, he subsequently came to accept the situation. By the time he reached his senior year, Travis had undergone significant physical changes. He had grown 23 centimeters and gained 18 pounds. He was now a handsome and athletic young man. However, he was still a long way from Lauren. At the prom, Travis came with his attractive but not particularly outstanding girlfriend. That night, they lost their virginity to each other. Lauren was the prom queen and her date was the prom king. They had sex. Subsequently, they engaged in sexual intercourse on numerous occasions. Lauren was not a virgin prior to the prom, and her sexual experiences were influenced by external factors. During his 4-year tenure at Michigan State University, Travis pursued a degree in accounting. He was involved in several romantic relationships during this period, yet none of these relationships were characterized by depth or commitment. Lauren, on the other hand, attended Central Michigan University, where she majored in marketing. During her college years, she engaged in numerous romantic relationships, including one with a marketing professor. After years of being the object of lust, Lauren had become adept at navigating romantic relationships. Coincidentally, they both secured employment in Grand Rapids shortly after graduation. On a Friday night, workers were enjoying a meal at a popular bar and restaurant when Lauren and 2 women entered the establishment. Heads immediately turned to look at the woman in a short green dress with a deep neckline. Lauren barely paid any attention to it because it was expected at that point and she was used to it. Steve White, to the entire table of co-workers, exclaimed, "Who is this goddess?" Before he had time to consider his words, Travis responded reflexively, "This lady and gentleman is Lauren SS's goddess and girlfriend of mine." Many heads at the table turned from the woman to Travis, with some of them having their mouths open. One of them asked incredulously, "Have you met her?" Travis grumbled unhappily, stating that he hated attention. "The kind of attention I was referring to is that which I experienced throughout my 4 years of high school. During that time, she consistently ignored me, as if I were invisible." He spoke quietly, "Do you at least have a good story about groping?" One of the women at the table responded, "I would grope him in a heartbeat." She then added, "I'm sure I'm just more straightforward than anyone else at this table." The entire team was overcome with mirth, which prompted Lauren and her companions to exchange glances. She believed she had identified one of the men at the table, but she was uncertain. The trio relocated to a neighboring table, with Lauren seated across from the man she thought she recognized. He was a fellow student. She was curious as to whether he would approach her. "Say hello to that walking wet dream," White inquired. "You're drooling," said Jesus. "That is very unimpressive," replied the first interviewee, Casey Jello. "I spent 4 years pretending I didn't know you," she said. "I don't see why you would remember me now." Travis said. Several heads nodded in agreement. Lauren continued to study the man, enjoying her food. Then, she snapped her fingers and pointed at the man. "That is not nice," she said. One of her friends said, "If you point at someone in a restaurant, you might hurt yourself in some places." Lauren ignored her friend's remark. "I'll be right," she said. Subsequently, she proclaimed her intention to greet an acquaintance. Lauren promptly rose from her seat and traversed the distance to the table where Travis was seated. "Trav," Lauren greeted him, "it's a pleasure to see you." Travis, however, merely rolled his eyes at his companions and then turned. Travis greeted his former classmate with a neutral expression, stating, "Lauren, it's good to see you." As he rose to his feet, Lauren advanced into his personal space and kissed him gently on the lips, placing her hands on his shoulders. The worker sat in a state of astonishment, and Travis was similarly taken aback. Lauren, aware of this, offered him a smile that was not entirely innocent in nature. It was a game she felt entirely at ease playing, and she was aware that it was beyond his comprehension. "Come to our table and I will introduce you to the girls," she said, taking his hand and practically dragging him with her to her table. He spent the majority of the evening with Lauren and her 2 friends before departing. She entered his phone number into her own phone. Lauren was intrigued that Travis seemed indifferent to her. This was a new experience for her. He was polite in the restaurant but spent as much time talking to her 2 friends as he did with her. She kissed him on the lips several times during the evening, but he never returned the kiss. On Monday morning, Travis's co-workers, the employees who had been at the bar with him, immediately began inquiring about the outcome of his relationship with the goddess. They were surprised when he informed them that he had remained at the bar for approximately another hour and then departed for home alone. "She is impressive, but she is 14 levels taller than me." "I understand," he muttered. "I don't need that kind of grief," indicating his distress at the situation. 2 days later, Travis was in the parking lot outside his workplace. As he drove out of work, he grumbled to himself upon seeing her waiting for him by the car. She was dressed in a dress a size smaller than usual, and he acknowledged that she looked attractive. He was startled when she spoke to him in a quiet voice, asking why he had not called her. He tried his best to avoid looking at her, as he was aware of his physical response to her presence. She was like a hungry man seeing his first meal in weeks. Her low-cut top was unbuttoned to the bottom of her cleavage, and the hemline ended only about 5 centimeters below the sweet spot. He muttered to himself as she reached up to wrap her arms around his neck and plant a kiss on his lips. He found himself defenseless as she pressed her whole body against him, and his free hand went around. Her body reflexively grasped her panty-clad buttock as her dress was pulled up, revealing her wet tongue, which slipped into his mouth like a snake and began to attack him. He dropped his briefcase and grabbed her other buttock, and the kiss lingered indefinitely. After what seemed like minutes, the couple broke off the kiss and Lauren pulled her dress back down to cover her panties. Several of his co-workers, the workers, who had ceased their activities in a state of shock, rapidly entered their vehicles and departed. They proceeded to a restaurant situated outside the central business district, where they partook of their repast. Throughout the duration of the lunch, Lauren repeatedly adjusted the hem of her dress, a gesture that appeared to elicit a certain degree of enjoyment from both Travis and the young waitress. Travis regarded Lauren with a discernible weariness, yet he was merely a mortal, and when the woman, clad in only her undergarments, began to engage in flirtatious behavior, Travis was aware that his fate was sealed and that his only hope for survival was to perform well in the bedroom that night. He gazed at a naked Lauren for the first time and acknowledged that she was the goddess he had always imagined her to be. If this was to be his sole opportunity to fully engage in the act, he needed to ensure that he did not miss a crucial moment because lust was overwhelming his senses. Lauren vocalized her displeasure for the 4th or 5th time that evening. Once their sexual desire was satisfied, they lay face to face and observed Lauren smiled lecherously, apparently indicating that Travis had made a significant error in judgment a few years prior. She whispered, "You have amazing powers." She then reflected on the implications of this realization. "If I had known, we would have lost a few years." While Travis was not as physically attractive as Lauren, he was still handsome, trim, and had a promising career ahead of him. Additionally, he was highly skilled in the bedroom. Travis had reservations about this woman, however, primarily regarding her self-perception. The relationship between Lauren and Travis was gradually improving. While Lauren's physical beauty was evident, Travis was developing feelings for her as a person. He purchased an engagement ring, but before proposing, they discussed their views on fidelity. Lauren had made a positive impression on him, but Travis wanted to ensure there were no unresolved issues. "I don't know much about your past. I am not going to inquire about numbers or names," Travis stated as they sat down at the table for a serious discussion. "What occurred in the past will remain in the past. The same is true for me, but I require knowledge about the future from this point forward. I desire that we be exclusive and committed to each other fully and completely. There will be no exceptions. If you are unable to fulfill this commitment, I must know immediately. However, if you believe you can do so, I need to know now. If you are capable of doing so, I will trust you. However, if you cannot, I will not hesitate to take action." He placed a small box on the table between them. A black box was positioned on the table between them. Lauren gazed directly into Travis's eyes, then back at the box. "I will never cheat on my husband," she stated. Travis opened the box. "I will never cheat on my husband," he read. Travis recalled that his wife had not considered it cheating since she had warned him beforehand. He understood that she had expected and hoped that he would take it that way. If he did not, he would be cheating. Travis was aware that Lauren had had numerous opportunities to engage in extramarital relationships over the years. As far as he could ascertain, she had declined all of these opportunities in a manner that was consistent with the standards expected of a devoted wife. He considered himself to be a mediocre lover at best, and there was considerable scope for someone more physically attractive to gain her attention and pursue a romantic relationship. He was unaware of any extramarital affairs she had engaged in. He considered himself grateful for the 23 years she had lived as a devoted wife. However, he did not believe that love necessarily meant a lifelong commitment. In fact, he could not recall a single week that had passed without Lauren receiving proposals from individuals, not just men she knew. She was not just beautiful, she was a rare and exquisite being. Lauren was a woman of remarkable beauty. When God created his wife, he had an exceptional day. Travis always said that. Initially, Lauren informed him of this every time she was molested, attempting to be completely transparent. After a few years, however, Travis stated that he trusted her enough to know that she did not need to lay everything out for him. The only time he would want to know that she was being hit on was if the hitter did not take her first. In the event of rejection, he would then take the necessary steps to rebuff the offender. In contrast, Travis was rarely approached by women. One reason for this was that he used his wedding ring as a kind of shield. In the minutes following a meeting with a woman, Travis would often begin talking about his wife and children in glowing terms. This usually put an end to any romantic interest the woman might have had. Travis was not even aware of what he was doing. He was engaging in behaviors that most women would disengage from before they even had a chance to flirt. Lauren was unaware that her husband was deterring potential romantic interests. The seemingly idyllic marriage lasted 22 years before Rose Esposito entered the proverbial Garden of Eden, or rather, began working at the same public relations firm as Lauren. In the words of a Bob Seger song, she was a dark, the woman was blonde, with large brown eyes and breasts. Men were attracted to her like a strong magnet attracts metal. In any other office, she would have been an alpha female. However, at Superior Solutions, she was at best a loyal assistant to the sexiest woman on the planet, 42 years of age. Old Rose had been married for 15 years, but she indicated that she was not a proponent of the institution. She had engaged in extramarital relationships with her husband's knowledge and a few more without his awareness. She frequently recounted her experiences to Lauren, who was adept at storytelling. The narratives often enhanced the sexual experiences with most of her partners, making it seem as if they were extraordinary. "You have not engaged in any such activities since you got married," Rosa stated. "You are a paragon of fidelity, but I do not believe you are interested in it." During a coffee break at work, Lauren revealed that she had recently observed a decline in the amount of attention she received from men in bars and restaurants. On multiple occasions, she had noticed that the stares she used to attract were now directed towards younger women. This observation led her to question her own visual appeal. Rose inquired as to whether Lauren had ever considered the possibility of engaging in the activity in question. Lauren's expression indicated that she had not previously contemplated this scenario. Rose observed that if permission were granted, the situation would be significantly altered. Lauren acknowledged this, remarking that if something is worth having, it is worth asking for. She had never considered this possibility. Before her face brightened, then dimmed. "Hek never gave me permission, never," Lauren said. "Do I have to do everything for you?" Rose asked. The unspoken authorization was to tell him and then take what she wanted. "No matter what he says," she continued, "tell him that he loves you enough to let you do it. You can get through this because it has nothing to do with love. You only love him." Travis was awakened by the sound of a car pulling up to the house. Glancing at the clock, he realized it was a little after 3 in the morning. Upon glancing at the bottle of Woodford Reserve, he observed that approximately half of it had been consumed. "A rather splendid night, wouldn't you say?" he inquired of Lauren as she entered the residence through the front door. Travis then proceeded to examine the cliché his wife had become. Her hair was combed but disheveled, her makeup was absent, her attire was disheveled, and she did not appear remorseful, but rather smug. "You could have said the same to me," she hissed. "I didn't," he replied. "I must await your departure. Might I inquire as to whether you intend to do the same?" "I have no intention of sharing your bed again." He finally arose from his chair and prepared breakfast while eating. He heard the shower in the master bath turn on. He thought to himself, "Chill her up," indicating his expectation that his wife would come downstairs in a robe and with her hair wrapped in a towel. This morning, she had not come downstairs for about an hour. When she did come downstairs, her hair was dried. She was dressed and wearing makeup. Dressed and wearing makeup, he appeared as flawless as ever. Given his demeanor, it was not surprising that she inquired about food. He had brewed a pot of coffee, but she was expected to prepare her own meals, given that she was dressed for home. He suggested that it was an opportune time to discuss the matter. Lauren was taken aback by Travis's composure. She had anticipated a more emotional response. She reasoned that an irrational Travis would be easier to manipulate. A rational Travis, however, would make the conversation much harder. She then asked him, "Don't you want to know about last night?" Travis perceived a note of superiority in her tone. He then inquired, "Do you really believe that I want to know how I was made a cuckold?" "Hardly," she replied. "I want to know how you see our marriage." In the future, Travis stated that he intended to engage in sexual relationships with other men over the next few years. He clarified that these relationships would be purely physical and not romantic. Travis expressed his love for Lauren but also his desire to explore other experiences. He noted that he had dedicated 23 years of his life to Lauren and had never considered cheating. Travis sought the excitement of trying something new and expressed his admiration for Lauren. "I would like to engage in sexual intercourse with you, but I also want to experience sexual intercourse with other men. I want to try different experiences for a while, and then you and I will live happily ever after. I will be grateful for the experiences and will exclusively love you for the rest of our lives." Travis listened intently to Lauren as she spoke while simultaneously preparing jam toast for his coffee. He thought about the way she was spreading the toast while talking. The subject in question regarded the most important aspect of his life with a certain degree of indifference. He was plagued by a multitude of queries, including whether this was merely a quest for variety, or if he was being deprived of something essential. He inquired in a somewhat shrill tone whether she aspired to reside in an open marriage for a few years and then revert to monogamy at some point in the future. This raised the question of whether he would be permitted to engage in extramarital relationships. The notion of her reserved, monogamous husband pursuing another romantic interest was preposterous. Travis's views on marriage were the most serious of any man she had ever encountered. Nevertheless, if that were the price to be paid to gain his consent in principle, she replied, "Of course, I am assuming it would be purely sexual for you too." Travis raised his eyebrows and shrugged. Lauren was uncertain as to his true intentions. She was not certain what the motion meant, but she did, however, have an idea. Would he like to go on a date with Rosa, she inquired, referring to a woman from his office whom he found attractive. Lauren was certain that her friend would have no problem engaging in sexual relations with her husband, especially if it meant helping Lauren achieve her goal of sleeping with other men and still being married. Travis appeared perplexed. The 47-year-old bachelor was so infatuated with Rose that he was driven to the point of comatose intoxication. The older married man was aware that he could not pursue such a course of action. He expressed his desire to date Rosa but was reluctant to have a child. He considered himself to be as promiscuous as the man he was emulating. On the previous night, he observed Lauren's expression change from one of amusement to one of anger. He then proceeded to challenge her assertions. "I am not a womanizer," he stated. "If you insist, I will do it." He then made a further assertion, indicating that he would act regardless of her opinion. "I will do it even if you do not," he said. Rose arrived at Lauren's office at approximately 11 p.m. It was 12 a.m. on Monday morning, and Lauren's demeanor suggested discontent. "To hell with that prude and the horse he rode in on," she hissed, closing the office door behind Rose. "He even refused to go out with you," she continued, her tone indicating disbelief. Rose frowned. "I didn't realize I was on the men's menu," he replied, his tone indicating frustration. "But why should I care?" "I'll do it anyway," she retorted, stroking her body suggestively. Her hands. "What about the date? Did you have a good time, or did Travis ruin it?" Rose inquired. "The date was fantastic. Jonas definitely knows how to make a woman feel good." Lauren replied with enthusiasm. "I definitely like the difference. Who do you think I should try next?" Both women laughed heartily. Lauren was pleased to find that she was not immediately given that she and her husband had barely spoken. She deemed it prudent to refrain from inquiring about his future plans. Despite this, Travis was reluctant to hasten the dissolution of their marriage. He hoped that she would swiftly reconsider her misguided intentions to encroach upon his domain and believed that he hoped that she would cease her misbehavior and forgive her. His hopes were strengthened when Lauren did not go on a date the following week. However, he did not resume sexual intercourse with her and they did not communicate in a positive way. The following Friday evening, Lauren was once again dressed to the hilt, was evidently prepared for a date. "Are you seriously contemplating this same course of action with the same individual, or do you aspire to a different partner this week?" Travis inquired in a firm tone. "Damn, Trav, did you not hear a word I said? This is not about you. It is about my desire for something before I am too advanced in age to attract a partner. It is not that I desire you any less. I simply desire a more diverse and varied experience. I frequently receive romantic overtures and I wish to enjoy them. I will always return to you. However, there is a possibility that I may not wish for you to return to me. I am not inclined to share you. I am not prepared to sit idly by while you engage in these activities. I am not suited to that lifestyle. I am not willing to wait for you to pursue other potential partners in this city." Following the initial date, I was uncertain as to whether I could recover from the incident. However, given that it occurred on 2 occasions, I now perceive it as an act of extreme disrespect and betrayal. It constitutes a clear indication of disregard for the relationship and a lack of respect for my feelings. I have the right to expect your fidelity and commitment. I am not willing to accept your infidelity or disrespect. I am therefore ending the relationship. It is evident that the individual in question does not wish to lose the other party. This does not have to be a case of either-or. Travis had instructed his attorney to prepare all the necessary paperwork last week, in the hope that it would not be necessary. He was going to call his wife on Monday morning, but first he needed to call his 2 daughters and tell them about it. Neither of the daughters was 21 years of age. The individuals in question, Jackie and Michelle, are both under the age of 20. Old Michelle appeared to accept her father's account of events when he called her that evening. However, subsequent discussions with both daughters revealed that his eldest daughter may have anticipated the outcome. She had, in fact, been the one to suggest that something untoward was about to occur. The father, enraged, demanded to know why he had not been informed. His daughter replied, "You don't think I deserve to know what was going to happen?" She then went on to say that she was in a difficult position, as one of her parents would not be happy with her regardless of what she did. Regardless of my potential actions, it is her body and therefore beyond your control. If she wishes to share it, you must accept that. Travis yelled, I understand that she has placed you between us, but do not tell me that she can do whatever she wants, whenever she wants, because that body is hers. We made vows, and those vows take precedence over any discussion about her body. Lauren muttered briefly and then fell silent. Damn baby, I'm sorry, Daddy, she whispered when Lauren walked through the door. At 2 a.m., Travis was nowhere to be seen, despite her arrival an hour earlier than her previous date. She appeared somewhat frazzled. Gabriel Esposito was a large, strong man with great physical strength, perhaps the strongest Lauren had ever encountered in bed. She anticipated that by tomorrow she would probably have a couple of bruises from his grip. Overall, it had been a great night, but she thought she would be able to enjoy Gabriel another time. On a subsequent occasion, Lauren experienced a profound sense of shock and embarrassment when she was presented with her divorce papers at the office. On Monday morning, she abruptly departed the premises, sobbing, and sought refuge in the ladies' room. A few minutes later, Rosa arrived on the scene. You should have anticipated this outcome, Rosa observed. He was bound to present you with the papers at some point. This is his way of inflicting pain upon you in return. He's attempting to force you into a corner and is not going to relent. He's not going to give up, Lauren replied, her voice laden with emotion. She was 23 at the time. After a year of marriage and the transfer of half of his belongings, a week alone would be sufficient for him to reconsider his actions. Lauren returned to her desk, picked up her phone, and immediately dialed her husband's number. How could you do this to me in the office, in front of everyone? I am hurting, but I deserve better than this, she said. After 23 years, don't I deserve something better than you unilaterally deciding to end our marriage? I am not wrong. Could you not have given me advance notice? We could have parted ways like civilized people. Travis responded, I do not wish to be civilized. I do not wish for a divorce. I still love you. You still love me. Despite Travis's adamant opposition, Lauren smiled and he frowned as they were led into the inner sanctum of the counselor's sanctuary and caught Lily and Camacho in one of the chairs at the counselor's desk. Data on marriage counselors indicated that the majority considered their role to be that of reconciling divorcing couples. Additionally, female counselors appeared to favor women. The couple took 2 of the 3 available seats at the table. She cleared her throat to indicate that she was about to begin. She had read both of their cases and seen both of their statements. Camacho began by stating that she would start with the simplest case. Wesley, did you really tell your husband that you were going to be seeing other men for several years? Travis was trying his best to conceal his smirk. Wesley, on the other hand, was trying hard not to let the counselor see how shocked she was. She considered lying, but then realized she didn't have a ready. She crafted a cover story for the lie. Yes, she replied quietly. It's something I want, not something I need. It won't affect our marriage. Well, the counselor said. I think we'll call it a day. I'm sorry to have wasted your time, Mrs. Wesley, the counselor said. I'll talk to the judge and put an end to this farce. Lauren began stuttering. But, she said. If you thought for 1 minute that the actions you took towards your husband would be similarly effective with me. You are severely mentally unstable. You should be ashamed of yourself, but it is evident that you possess no shame whatsoever. In fact, you disgust me. Over the following month, Miss Cacho stated that Lauren called and texted Travis several times a day as he rented a small apartment near his home. He did not answer the calls or texts. At that point, she enlisted the help of their daughters. Michelle inquired during one of those calls, who called several times. You know you still love her. If she stopped seeing other men, would you give her another chance? Travis responded in a trembling voice, and all he got in return was silence. That was all the answer he needed. Michelle did not call again or ask him to try again. Travis was surprised at the news of his impending divorce spread rapidly, particularly among single women. Several women at his workplace expressed their condolences about his marital difficulties, as did several women who were friends with both him and his wife. He was perceptive enough to recognize that not all of their condolences were genuinely altruistic. Connie Mayong, a longtime friend of his wife, called to express her regret for what was in the context of Travis's life. Connie offered him a shoulder to cry on and herself for comfort. Travis was taken aback by the overt nature of Connie's advances, given their long-standing friendship. In the years they had known each other, Connie had never once cast even an indirect glance at him. "I would never have pursued a friend's husband," Connie stated. "It's just wrong. Now that you're a free man," she continued, "I'm interested in pursuing a relationship with you. The rules are different. I am interested in you, Travis. I am flattered, but I am not a free woman yet. Connie and I will not date until the divorce is final. I know it is illogical, but I will not cheat." Travis said, "You are such a Boy Scout. That is one of the things I like about you. So always have. Can you at least set me up on a date when you are free?" Connie asked. "Sure," Travis replied. "I do not wish to become an obstacle between you and Lauren. You have been friends for years and I appreciate your sensitivity. However, just because she is not particularly intelligent does not mean that I have to forego the opportunity to interact with a suitable partner. I would not even consider it if you were simply an unknown individual with whom we had just made contact. Connie suggested that she might contact you when she was no longer constrained by the limitations of her current situation." Travis made a joking reference to Connie as a 6 feet 5 inches Asian woman with a well-trained physique and waist-length black hair. This was one of her primary assets in Travis's eyes. He admitted to himself that he was more than surprised that the woman had shown interest in him. Travis proved true to his word and called Connie the day his divorce became official. On Saturday night, they went out to a restaurant and then to a local jazz club. Connie noticed that Travis was feeling awkward and commented, "I feel like an inexperienced. A year I haven't been on a date with another woman in over 26 years, he replied. "Do you anticipate that the condom in your wallet is the same one you had on your last date before Lauren?" she inquired, her tone lighthearted. "I didn't even consider that," Travis replied, at the end of the evening. Connie kissed Travis gently on the lips. They both felt positive after the date, and he promised to call again. Travis had not considered removing his wedding ring on the day of his final divorce, but it was apparently a significant gesture for unmarried women, as evidenced by the noticeable absence of the ring on his finger. The workers took note of the change and commented on it. The level of flirting in his office increased markedly. This was a new experience for him. One day at lunch, he confided in his best friend in the office. He observed that there were so many beautiful women in the office. He asked, "How did I never notice that before?" Travis replied, "You were a bastardized jerk." Robert interjected, "You were so much in." It is evident that Travis was in love with Connie and did not view other women as sexual beings. While she is undoubtedly a beautiful woman, he allowed her to put his testicles in her purse, which may have contributed to the problem. She is constantly being scrutinized, and he was so emasculated that he gave off a vibe that no woman would ever look at him in the first month after. Following the dissolution of his marriage, Travis proceeded to embark on 4 dates, 2 of which were with Connie. Despite his best efforts, he had not yet managed to engage in sexual intercourse with any of the 3 women he had dated. However, this was not his primary objective in the second month. He was equally sought after and engaged in sexual intercourse with 2 women. Travis's daughters, who had spent the previous few months conversing with their mother more frequently than their father, had heard her repeated assertions that while she could easily obtain a romantic partner with minimal effort. Their father, an average man in his early 40s, had difficulty even finding a date, let alone a long-term romantic interest. Over time, they began to pity their father. On a Saturday morning approximately 2 months after the divorce, they visited him at his apartment without prior notice. Travis was displeased to be awakened at 8 a.m. 36, particularly given that he had entertained his companion late the night before. Sonia, a woman of considerable physical stature and endowed with a generous bust, was 25 years of age. The woman was the daughter of a friend of his who required a dependable beau for her wedding reception. The evening had proceeded so well that the couple had decided to conclude it at Travis's apartment. At that moment, she was asleep in his bed when he opened the door in his robe. He inquired as he swung the door open and saw the smiling faces of his daughters, Jackie and Sonia, were carrying bags of bagels, smoked salmon, and cream cheese. "Hi, Daddy," Jackie said as the couple entered the house. "Can't your 2 favorite daughters come over for breakfast?" Travis kissed both of them on the cheek and led them to the kitchen table, where they emptied the bags they had brought with them. They were just putting away when Sonia emerged from the bedroom wearing one of Travis's white shirts, partially unbuttoned and seemingly lacking any additional garments. "I'm sorry, I was unaware you were expecting guests," Sonia said. "You your own boss," Jackie and Michelle replied in unison, both exhibiting visible embarrassment. He indicated with a gesture toward the daughter with the appropriate name, "They are here for breakfast." Sonia emitted a brief, high-pitched laugh, causing her substantial, braless breasts to quiver beneath her shirt. She then brushed her thigh against Travis's arm and took a seat next to him. The four of them engaged in casual, inconsequential conversation until Jackie inquired if Travis had not conversed with Lauren recently. For the first time in days, he had experienced a sense of distress in her presence, despite the fact that she was somewhat demanding of his 48-year-old body. He informed them that he had not yet missed his wife, but they replied that she missed him and that she was living her life to the fullest. "I was aware that I was an anchor for her. I had assumed that she would sleep with both of them in our old bed," Jackie exclaimed, "Daddy," while Sonia giggled and Michelle frowned. I paused for a moment to consider how many different men she had slept with since our separation, and the other two that I was aware of. I left both girls blushing and lowering their heads. It is notable that if 2 men a month were engaged in sexual intercourse for a period of 10 months, that would amount to 20 different sexual partners. If we consider that 3 men a month were involved, the total number of sexual partners would be 30. This figure is considerable. Sonia said if looks could kill, Travis's daughters would have put Sonia in her grave in seconds. She was aware of this fact. "If a woman cannot maintain her chastity, then she is to be pitied," Sonia declared. Children, let us not mar this fine weekend for me," Travis stated. "I am sorry," the 3 young women muttered simultaneously. "Are you two a couple?" Jackie asked Sonia in a quiet voice. "You do not appear any older than me," she replied. "My father informed me that we are the same age. However, I assured him that I have no intention of becoming his stepmother. We are simply friends. He is a remarkable individual. He was my date to the wedding reception last night, and he is quite attractive. I believe I have already mentioned that he is a remarkable individual. We must acknowledge that he is, nevertheless, a commendable individual, despite his occasional propensity for ill temper," Jackie observed. "Moreover, he is rather attractive, given his advanced age." Sonia's cheeks flushed a deeper red, and Travis also displayed a hint of embarrassment. "Do remember, my dear, that we have an engagement with the newlyweds for a luncheon," he reminded her. "The families will be convening at the hotel at noon. I must take a shower and procure appropriate attire for my apartment before we proceed," Sonia stated. Both daughters rolled their eyes, regarding their father. "Mom," Jackie informed her mother during lunch a few weeks later. It appeared to be a long-standing relationship. Given the considerable time they had spent together, it was evident that they enjoyed each other's company. It was unlikely that he would return to her any time soon. "No, you just caught him on a good day. He was probably helping a friend's baby and got lucky. She's probably a who'll sleep with anyone. Your father is a great guy, but not a stud." Jackie. Her mother was met with a raised eyebrow in response. It was evident that her mother's happiness with her father was only apparent until she informed him of her intention to leave him. It was then that her mother's demeanor shifted, and she began to question why she hadn't simply cheated on him without disclosing her intentions. She contemplated whether it would have been more straightforward to simply keep the relationship and enjoy the benefits without the obligations. However, she was aware that her mother would have disapproved of such an action. "Although I was not unfaithful to my partner and was confident that he would agree to my terms when he realized the consequences of his actions, I must admit that I did not anticipate the dissolution of our marriage. I had never assumed that he would have the courage to do so. My mother appears to have conflated love with weakness and, at some point, assumed that the decision rested solely with her. Was the initial decision ultimately beneficial?" Lauren's countenance reflected the rigors of her experiences. Rose's portrayal of events was more idyllic than their reality. She was unable to inform her daughter that the sexual intimacy had been satisfactory, but it had not been worthwhile. She was also unable to convey that she had never anticipated that Travis would pursue anything other than a sedentary existence, longing for his former romantic partner. The wife exhibited a high degree of self-absorption. She was so absorbed in her own thoughts that she failed to recognize the appeal of a handsome man with admirable character, intelligence, and a stable career. She understood that, following the dissolution of their marriage, her former spouse had pursued relationships with several women, including her longtime friend Connie and a younger woman of similar age to their eldest daughter. Instead of dwelling on the past, he was actively dating and engaging in behaviors typical of a single 20-year-old. The older gentleman was attracting more female attention than he was entitled to. She had not mentioned this to Connie when she discovered that her friend had gone out with her ex on the first occasion. She had assumed it was some sort of pity date. However, the second date had been entirely unnecessary, and she had informed Connie in private in a rather loud tone. Lauren asserted that they were friends and that women are expected to support one another. However, she noted that he had not done anything wrong to her and that he was a kind, decent, and admirable man. She questioned why she did not pursue a relationship with Trav, noting that numerous women were interested in him. She described him as the ideal partner. The woman in question is of a certain age and, while she is attractive, she is not the most appealing of companions. However, she is a great date and, it must be said, a great lover. It would be fair to say that she is the perfect woman for him. Lauren stared at her friend in silence, her mouth open. She was just beginning to realize that her mistake was growing like yeast. She loves Travis and hates herself for it. Upon returning home at the end of the day to an empty house, she experiences a sense of solitude at night. Travis, for his part, was unprepared for the sudden turn of events that would alter the course of his life. He would have been content to maintain the status quo of his previous, relatively uneventful existence. However, he was ultimately amenable to the changes that befell him. His professional life was satisfactory and his social interactions were positive. Notch enjoys socializing with several women of varying ages, and most of his dates end in sexual intercourse. He is not currently seeking a long-term partner, but he has engaged in numerous sexual relationships with women he considered to be good partners. Mara Goodling, her silver hair was gathered into a ponytail, held in a hole in the back of her Chicago Cubs baseball cap. Her blue Cubs jersey was perhaps a size tight on her ample breasts, and her light blue Levi's were as tight as most of the 20-some individuals in the stands, despite her 60 years of age. In the left grandstand of Wrigley Field, in the stadium, she was garnering more than enough attention. One of those gazing at her appraisingly was Travis Wesley, the ex. Mara had been employed by Lauren Wesley for over 15 years. Mara and Travis had been to a Cubs game as part of a weekend trip to Chicago. Mara had met Travis at several corporate events where he accompanied his then-wife. Travis was always perceived as a suitable partner. He was a pleasant individual. Mara was aware that he and Lauren had divorced approximately 2 years ago. Mara had already been a widow for approximately 5 years. Her late husband had passed away in a vehicular accident. Mara had only been on one date during that period. Afterwards, she had decided to obtain Travis's contact information. Travis recalled her. He surmised that it would be challenging to forget a woman who exuded both style and beauty. Would he be interested in going out with her? Dinner with her, absolutely, he replied. It was a few months before the present moment. The first date was at an expensive restaurant, followed by a concert at the Philharmonic with Mara providing the tickets. The evening ended with them kissing at the front door of her house. The second date was a Saturday hike on the trail, and the woman giggled several times when a clearly tired Travis had to take short breaks during the hike. On the day in question, it became apparent that Mara and her late husband had been avid climbers and hikers. Despite Travis's belief that he was in relatively good shape, he was mistaken. Mara also had a trim body for an older woman and mesmerizing gray eyes. The date concluded with Mara and Travis engaging in intimate physical contact on the living room rug. After a passionate kissing session on the couch, she piqued his interest. The combination of affluence and the freshness of the girl next door appealed to Mara, who gladly agreed to a weekend of sightseeing in Chicago as part of their third date. On their first date, Mara informed Travis that she had no intention of disclosing their relationship to Lauren. If asked, she would not have denied it, but she was not going to advertise the fact. Mara also informed Travis that Lauren had informed several of her co-workers that she was dating him. Mara was informed by Travis that he and his former spouse were divorcing due to irreconcilable differences. Travis disclosed to Mara the same information he had previously shared with others, namely that Lauren had engaged in extramarital relationships with multiple individuals. In the 2 years since his divorce, Travis had formed several strong relationships and enjoyed what he perceived to be an exceptional sexual experience. Female partners held a favorable opinion of him, with several expressing hope of being considered when Travis decided to trust women again and get married. In contrast, Lauren was pursuing a different objective. Before their first date, she informed her then-husband that she was simply seeking sexual gratification while still possessing the physical appeal to attract a wide range of potential partners. Jackie was seeking an emotional relationship, a quality that was absent in the majority of her previous partners. This fundamental difference between her and her former partners would become a significant issue. She and her mother were deeply engaged in wedding preparations, which her father was generously financing. Lauren informed Jackie that she believed both parents should attend the wedding unaccompanied. Therefore, Jackie concurred with this notion and conveyed it to her father later that week during their lunch conversation. Travis inquired, "Did this brilliant idea originate from you or your mother?" "I intend to bring a companion," he stated firmly. "I am footing the bill for this event, and I intend to have a great time with whoever I bring. I have even been taking dancing lessons for approximately a year. Ever since you announced your engagement, you've been taking dance lessons with great dedication. It is commendable that you are investing in your future spouse's special day. However, it seems that you have not yet identified a suitable partner with whom you can share this experience. It appears that you are attempting to leverage the situation to your advantage. While it is understandable that you want to make the most of this opportunity, it is also important to consider the feelings of others. Should he fail to inform his daughter of his intentions to attend her wedding without a date, I will do so on his behalf. She is at liberty to attend the ceremony unaccompanied or to bring a date of her own choosing. I will be attending with a date," Travis informed me. "I will convey to my daughter your desire to see her dance, but I must point out that you are not yet of an age to attend such an event unaccompanied. I am willing to do so, but it is not a viable option." Travis suggested that Connie might enjoy observing Sonia and him dancing. Travis smiled broadly and was met with a similar expression in return. Travis accompanied Connie to the wedding, where she was attired in a sea green dress that Travis had purchased and paid for. They engaged in a dispute over Travis's decision to purchase the dress. Travis informed the woman that, as the father of the bride, he felt it was appropriate for him to wear a tuxedo. He informed her that he would be happy to purchase a new dress, noting that shoes would also be required. Leading his oldest daughter down the aisle, Travis reflected on the dichotomy of this event, which he considered both a significant and unfortunate occurrence. He observed that other fathers who had predicted this outcome had been accurate. Despite this, he acknowledged that it was a joyous occasion, noting that he had enjoyed time with Connie and his children, dancing until late into the night. The only moment that had marred the day was the appearance of his former spouse. His wife, who was armed with her own bow, did not elicit any concern from Travis. However, the man in question had spent the majority of the first part of the wedding event smirking at Travis and then the majority of the second part staring at and groping several women in a manner that could be described as obnoxious and drunken. At least, this was the case until Jackie had asked her mother to remove the guest. Lauren, visibly embarrassed, apologized and promptly escorted the man out of the premises before departing with her companion. Lauren then proceeded to follow Connie into the women's restroom. "You are the woman who stole a man," she stated to Connie once they were inside the restroom. "I am sorry, but I have never. He divorced you before we even started dating. You are the one who is at fault for that divorce. You threw away a great man for cheap sex." Lauren's face turned crimson. Her eyes, which had been staring intently at the other woman, now looked away. She suddenly lost color and lowered her head, remaining motionless as Connie exited the room. Connie refrained from communicating with Travis or the family because she did not want to mar the special nature of this occasion. Several months after the wedding, Michelle arrived at her father's house and appeared restless. He observed her for a period of time before posing a question. "Mitch, could you please clarify the situation? You have been somewhat agitated all evening." Michelle blushed profusely and began to stutter. "An STD, father," I overheard the conclusion of Michelle's conversation with her friend Rosa. She informed her that she had contracted syphilis. Michelle stated this in a subdued manner, averting her gaze from her father. Travis exhibited a combination of surprise and sadness as he observed her. "I surmise that you are disclosing this information to me because you are concerned about me," Travis said. "However, it is standard state policy to inform all potential recipients of a given disease that they should undergo testing." "I was not aware of that, I was merely concerned about you, Dad," she replied. "I am aware that my mother is still engaging in sexual activities. Several of my friends have informed me that she is attractive, and it is always awkward when a friend informs you that your mother is engaging in sexual activity." Several days later, Travis received a hostile telephone call from Mara. He immediately recognized that she shared the same concerns as Michelle, although she also had her own health concerns. "If I slept with my ex, the answer is not just no, but emphatically no," Travis stated. "Mara, I understand your concern, but there is nothing I can do about the fact that my ex is a scandal." "Scandal is the kindest description I have heard used to refer to her lately," he added. "In recent months, her activities," Mara began. "Outside the house, her status has been a topic of speculation. It appears that the longer she has been single, the more she has become detached and guarded." Lauren leveraged her STD diagnosis as a catalyst for her plan to rekindle her relationship with Travis. She felt she had experienced sufficient romantic partners and, 6 months after receiving a clean bill of health from her doctor, she initiated her plan to rekindle her relationship with Travis. She still held some resentment towards Travis for divorcing her initially, which was not part of her original plan. She assumed that her then-husband would never have the audacity to divorce a woman who, given the likelihood that Travis would be unable to find another partner with similar qualifications, the plan might have succeeded had he not been pursued by other women. Lauren was confident in her attractiveness, but she was unaware that Travis was similarly attracted to other women. While he was a commendable individual, it was evident that these women did not recognize his level of sexual appeal, which was considerably below hers. This realization was expressed by Lauren to Rosa during an evening spent waiting for their respective dates at a bar. It was Rosa who had encouraged her friend to pursue this course of action. Lifestyle. She was aware that Travis was physically attractive, but she had greatly underestimated the depth of his personality. This was also due to the fact that he was always subservient to his wife. She expected Travis to simply sit around and mope while his wife had fun with other men. Lauren and Rosa had been monitoring Travis's activities since Lauren had given him the ultimatum. It was evident that his sex life since the official divorce had been almost as active as Lauren's. If Lauren had been more honest with herself, she might have recognized that her ex, Travis's sex life appeared to have improved significantly. He was going on dates and seemed genuinely to be enjoying himself with his partners. Lauren had slept with her own partner, although not with any of them. She had contracted an STD, which she noted had been particularly severe for a long time. Perhaps it was time for her and Travis to reconnect. Lauren concluded that Travis was more surprised by the voice on the other end of the line than he had let on. He had not spoken to his ex-wife in almost 2 years. It had been almost 2 years since Lauren had last spoken to her husband. One of his daughters must have provided her with his new cell phone number, which he had not forbidden them to do. However, he had stated that he did not believe it was appropriate for her to ever speak to him directly again. "Hello, Trev," she said in her most pleasant tone. "I think it's time we had a talk. I had thought we shouldn't talk until Michelle was married, but since that is not yet the case, perhaps we can revert to a state of silence." Travis said, still the same. "Travis is still attempting to deny that you love me, but you are aware of your feelings. You desire my return." "It is the same, Lauren. You were not aware of the situation, but that would have constituted cheating." "Lauren, merely informing me of your intention to do so does not negate the reality of the situation. You engaged in the act because you believed I would never cease pursuing you. Do you truly believe I am so desperate?" Travis stated, "I am aware you consider yourself to be a 10, or perhaps even a 12. However, I believe you are much more than that. I do not have to justify my opinion. Live in your shadow, as I have been shown over the last few years. I am not just the husband of a beautiful woman. Other women want what I have to offer and are willing to repay me emotionally. The last few years have been great for me. Why would I want to go out again with a selfish woman who clearly disrespects me and, regardless of her statements, does not love me? The affection he once held for her was now a distant memory. Travis terminated the call and turned to the woman seated next to him, prepared to commence the next phase of the interaction. He inquired about Sonia, and she eventually discovered her ideal partner and married him. However, Connie and Mara continued their relationship with Travis. He loved them both in his own way but never remarried. They loved him in their own way too, and both furthermore, a few years later, both women were invited to attend the wedding of Travis's second daughter, Michelle. This did not please Lauren, who had not invited the boy to the wedding. She complained to her daughter, but Michelle did not support her. After Jackie and her family, Connie and Mara are the two closest people. In response, Michelle stated that they loved Daddy for who he was and placed him above their own self-serving interests. This is a quality not possessed by everyone. He was yours and you left him for extramarital sexual relations. Why? Simply because you were afraid of growing old and believed he had no other options. Did you think he would never give up on you for anything or anyone? Travis was content with his circumstances, despite the fact that he had not initially chosen this path. He had extricated himself from a situation he deemed untenable. Lauren's life was not characterized by solitude and remorse. She was still a physically attractive woman, and attractive women often find themselves the subject of attention from men. Lauren was often approached by men, and she had engaged in numerous brief romantic relationships. Nevertheless, none of these brief relationships resulted in a long-term commitment. In retrospect, Lauren acknowledged that she regretted informing her then-husband of her intention to leave him solely because she was still grappling with the fact that Travis had terminated the relationship with such ease. How could she have miscalculated so significantly? She often reflected on this. She rated herself 12 points out of 10, while he rated himself only 6. It was not the anticipated outcome.